story of true friendship. Chapter 1, Barney. In the mists of London, in the middle of the night, you can hear a dog bark. That dog is Barney. I am the only one who knows why he howls, and I have permission to tell you. It all happened a few years ago when Barney lived with the Millers. Mrs. Miller was a pale, kind-faced woman who always wore some kind of polka dots. She had poofy red hair and blue eyes. She was a beautiful woman, but the most beautiful part was her clothes. She had red velvet dresses with white and brown polka-dotted collars, making her look like a red velvet cupcake, and blue satin dresses polka-dotted with red or white. She looked loving, but she was the exact opposite. She was cruel. Mr. Miller was also kind-faced, but he actually brought kindness with him. You'd expect him to wear suits if he had a wife of such vanity, but he was a gardener and he wore casual plaid shirts and baggy boots. He didn't dress up for dinner, which his wife disliked. Barney did not deserve to be treated the way he was, and he was not treated fairly. He was fed one scoop of food a day, and unfortunately, it was cat food. Sometimes, when she was in a good mood, Mrs. Miller would say to herself hopefully, "If that impish dog would just behave." Then she would laugh at the thought. Barney was really a very well-behaved dog, but Mrs. Miller was harsh, and Barney was kept outside. The garbage was his only chance of survival, because cat food would never satisfy his ongoing hunger. He was strong and shaggy with matted black fur over his eyes, and he always seemed to smile even through the roughest of times. His long fur and short schnauzer legs made him appear low to the ground and made it harder for him to move quickly. The days passed and things went as usual. Mrs. Miller straightened the pictures that hung in elegant frames. Mr. Miller fed Barney and went off to work. Mrs. Miller usually stayed inside, watched fashion channels on TV, or stood in front of the mirror and did and redid her hair in preparation for dinner that night. When night came after their daily routine, Barney slept in the garage on a blanket that he had been sold with. The garage was dark and dusty even in the daytime. The Millers owned a red Mini Cooper, which took up most of the small garage and was really in no shape for driving. Sundays were the best part of the week for Barney. The Millers always went shopping for books, for clothes, for food, for anything. Barney could go sniffing through bright red tulips in the spring, dig holes in the snow in the winter, or drink from the marble bird bath in the summer. The yard was a perfect place for a dog, but it had its boundaries and Barney knew it. There was a paved walkway that led to a pleasant-looking three-story house. On either side were little garden gnomes placed neatly against the pavement. Right behind the rows of gnomes were wide, grassy lawns that stretched all the way around the house. In the lawn to the right was an antique marble bird bath. The Millers had won it at an auction and were very proud of it. The best part about Sunday was Barney could visit Queenie, the next-door neighbor's pup. She was also black, but she was a tall Labrador retriever. She was proud-looking with her head held high, and she always strode with long, thin legs. One rainy autumn Sunday, Mr. and Mrs. Miller took the Rovers, Queenie's owners, shopping. Mr. and Mrs. Rover were very pet-friendly, and they adored their dog almost as much as a child, of which they had none. As the four neighbors got into the car, Mrs. Miller asked, "What do you plan on buying today?" "Dog food," said Mr. Rover flatly. "And a new dog bed," added Mrs. Rover rather enthusiastically. "How overly kind you are to Queenie," exclaimed Mrs. Miller. "Cat food suits Barney fine. Did you see how plump he is?" "You sound like you were preparing to eat him," remarked Mr. Rover. "Oh, I could never do that," Mrs. Miller laughed. "He would make a fine feast if he didn't smell like garbage," she added to herself.